What's going on, guys? I appreciate you tuning in to today's episode. Today we are back on the hunt. The boys and I are off to a familiar hunting ground, a place that we checked out just a few months ago, Second Childhood Toys and Collectables, to see what we can find. Let's do it. So guys, if you checked out my last toy hunting video from a few months back here at Second Childhood Toys and Collectables, you'll have a bit of a sense of what this place is all about. It's a big warehouse style store, lots and lots of modern toys and collectibles. There's still a good amount of vintage toys on display. We've got Toxic Crusaders, we've got Mask figures and vehicles, we've got Star Wars, we've got Centurions. In terms of the sorts of lines that I collect, the sort of stuff that I'm looking for, what I really love about Second Childhood Toys and Collectables is it's all about digging for that toy treasure. Kyle from Second Childhood Toys and Collectables has plenty of tubs that are labelled and sorted by toy line. There's also a bunch of tubs there that just have mixed figures and mixed accessories, which are always great fun to dig through. And Kyle's actually done a fair bit of work on the store since we were there a few months ago. There's a new mezzanine installed and there's plenty of tubs stored up there. And once again, Kyle was good enough to bring some of those tubs down for the boys and I so we could have a good dig. As with the last time we checked out Second Childhood Toys and Collectables, the first order of business was the vintage TMNT. The boys and I had a good dig through the loose Turtles figures there and the loose accessories. Unfortunately, not much there that we hadn't seen already, so we moved on to the next one, and it was shortly after we finished digging through the Turtles figures that I found my first pickup of the day. Down by my feet there was a box of loose odds and ends, and again, this is what I love about Second Childhood Toys and Collectables. It's all about looking everywhere, looking past what's right in front of you, in this case down by my feet, and digging a little bit deeper to find some treasure for the collection. And I didn't have to look very far before I came across this thing right here. We've got this Madball style bat. Now I know I've seen some of these Madball style bats, these Ghoulieville bats that go for big bucks that are highly sought after. I'm almost certain that is not what I have here. I'm almost certain this is kind of a dodgy knockoff version of that, but this is awesome. I love this 80s gross out shit, and this just jumped out right at me. I've got some knockoff Madballs in the collection. I've got a Lannard trash head spitball. This is going to display perfectly with that. So although I don't know exactly what I've got here, and I definitely welcome advice in the comments if this rings a bell for you, I just had to bring this home for me, and Kyle did me a great price. He bundled up a few of the things that we're going to look at, and my first find of the day is this awesome, what I assume is an 80s gross out Madball styles baseball bat, and I'm absolutely loving it. So first pickup of the day is off to a great start. So the hunt continued. I kept digging through tubs of mixed vintage action figures, and my next pickup was something that at one point in time I saw Dean from Totally Tailored Retro Hunters had it in his hands, but he put it down. I think my mate Dan had it in his hands and he might have put it down. So in the end I just thought, you know what, I'm going to bring this home, and it's this awesome bootleg style figure. And once again, as with that baseball bat, I couldn't tell you exactly what this is, but I just love the amalgamation that we have here. We've got an anthropomorphic dog with a face sculpt that's very much TMNT inspired. We've got the bandana just like TMNT, but the dog has a body like an 80s wrestler or a knockoff Motu figure. So it was just the amalgamation of all of these different elements into this dodgy knockoff that I just had to add to my collection. We've got some splotches of green slime there, so between the wrestler Motu style body, the splashes of green slime, the TMNT style face sculpt with the bandana, I just couldn't say no to this thing. There's no markings on it. It's very weighty, but when you look at the hands, when you look at the the kind of details on this figure, you can see it's quite clearly a knockoff. It's pretty poor quality, but like I said, it's got some weight to it. No markings, no idea what it is, but once again guys, just like that Madball style bat, if this rings a bell for you, if you know what I have here, definitely let me know in the comments. I don't really care that I don't know. I'm just happy to have this thing in the collection. I'm going to find a fun spot to display this KO. That's pretty cool. Is that like a micro playset for Independence Day?
Yeah, it's just missing everything there.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't even know they did the micro playsets for Independence Day. Now joining us for today's toy hunt, we had some familiar faces like Dean from Totally Tailored Retro Hunters. We had our mate Dan along for the hunt. We had Andrew from Keep On Collecting. We had Ryan the Collector Kid who's in town for Collecticon. So we had a nice little crew, but we also had the pleasure of being joined by some new faces like Ryan's mate, Dave, and it was great to meet Dave and get on the hunt with him. But we also had Leigh joining us, and Leigh's not only a champion bloke, but also the man behind this book right here, The Toys of Mighty Max, an excellent book that we're going to look at in more detail in my next Mighty Max video, but I can't speak highly enough about this book. If you're a Mighty Max collector, I definitely recommend you looking into this and trying to get your hands on this. But Leigh was good enough to not only sign my book and get a photo with me, but we definitely had Leigh in the right place at the right time, because I was going through a tub that had some incomplete Mighty Max sets and also a bunch of minifigures that were floating around the bottom of the tub. And Leigh was kind enough to spend a bit of time helping me put together this Mighty Max Blast Magus playset. A playset that I don't have, one of the ones that I'm still chasing. And Blast Magus is a playset that's got so many, not only minifigures, but loose weapons and little pieces that come out of each of these limbs of this larger figure that forms the playset.
Magus to you, Max.
Magus, you're humongous!
Now look inside.
Lava Lord!
Watch these missiles fire.
Awesome!
And for you, Max, the claw. They'll never outrun the lava blaster.
Norman Virgil, run!
To the dungeon, Max, and take your chicken with you.
Will Mighty Max escape the evil Mega Robot Magus?
It's a mighty big problem.
Collect Mighty Max Magus and all the Mighty Max Adventure playsets sold separately from Mattel.
Like, even if it's missing a couple of pieces that maybe you have spare.
I don't think you're far off with this one.
I don't want to.
Already in there anyway.
Yeah, I just don't want to be getting stuff that's like way off complete with pieces that I'm not going to find, or worse than that, broken pieces, because then it's not much good to me. And honestly, if Leigh wasn't there today, I probably would have looked at this as this is all too hard. As you guys know from recent videos, when it comes to Mighty Max, I'm doing my best just to pick up complete playsets. Obviously, that's not the cheapest way to, you know, to be able to add these items to your collection. It's certainly not the quickest way to do it. Whereas having Leigh there to kind of help me out, we got pretty close to completing this. It's definitely not complete. It's missing a Max figure. It's missing a Virgil figure. It's missing one of the projectiles within the eye of the larger Magus figure. And it's missing a projectile from this arm. But aside from that, I'm pretty sure this Magus is complete, and even better than that, Leigh mentioned that he had at least most of the 3 or 4 missing pieces at home, and you know, we can work something out for those. So one of the highlights of the day was not only chatting with Leigh and having him sign my book, but also working together to be able to get this Blast Magus playset at least complete enough to go on the shelf, and I'm really happy about it. So a big shout out to Leigh, and once again a big shout out to Cole at Second Childhood for looking after me with a nice price on this playset.
And it displays really well. It all opened up too.
Now, one thing I was noticing through today's hunt was that a lot of the tubs that we were pulling out and going through, I'd already been through previously during our last visit a few months back, but there was definitely some tubs that we were finding that had completely eluded me last time around, which was awesome. It's always great when you can go toy hunt at the same place twice within relative close proximity, but still see new things, and that's the great thing about a place as big and deep as Second Childhood Toys and Collectables. But Leigh was actually going through a tub that had a pretty crazy mix of different monster toys, and Leigh pulled out a Rude Ralph 80s piece that he added to his collection, which was awesome. And Leigh actually dug this out for me, and I'm grateful for the fact that he didn't want it for his collection, because Leigh, like me, is also collecting Monster in My Pocket. And it's funny, it's something that I've only just been reminded of lately through various YouTube videos, and that's these Monster in My Pocket Howler figures. You gonna grab that, Leigh?
No, you can.
You sure?
Yeah. Just recognised it because it's something I've been looking at lately.
Now, I definitely remember being aware of these as a kid. I didn't have any as a kid. I was all about collecting the Monster in My Pocket minifigures and trying to complete my set. Something that I'm still trying to do to this day. But I do remember seeing these howlers on toy store shelves or in commercials. Never had one back in the day, like I said, but I'm stoked to have one in the collection. Now, this is the Swamp Beast, and there was 4 of these. So there was a werewolf, a vampire, a monster, and this one right here. The interesting thing about Monster in My Pocket was they didn't have the license to use universal monster names. So where you see a Dracula, it'll be called a vampire. Where you see Frankenstein's monster, it'll just be called a monster. This one here is called the Swamp Beast. And what's really cool is it's in nice condition. It definitely needs a clean, but it still works. So it's still got the functional button underneath. And we've got the lights in the eyes and the sounds working beautifully. So really happy to have a Monster in My Pocket howler to add to the Monster in My Pocket shelf. And Leigh, big thanks to finding this one, mate, because it would have gone completely undetected for a second time if you hadn't have spotted this. So big thanks, mate. And just when I thought I was done, Cole had totaled me up and I was ready to walk out the door. I thought, let me do one last lap and just make sure I haven't missed anything. And it turned out I had, because down the bottom of one of the shelves was a stack of toy magazines from the 90s and early 2000s, and there was actually an issue of Tomart's Action Figure Digest that I've actually been watching on eBay for a little while now, this particular issue. And the reason why I've been watching this issue is it's a pre-Toy Fair 1994 issue, so it's got a lot of 1993, 1994 releases, including, notably for me, a page dedicated to the yellow card wave of Hasbro WWF figures, but also a bunch of other cool stuff. We've got Kenner's Alien vs Predator figures, we've got X-Men Steel Mutants in here, and we've got some Kenner Batman figures in here. The main focus of this issue of Tomart's Action Figure Digest is the 30th anniversary of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is not necessarily my thing, but there's still some beautiful G.I. Joe artwork in here. And I mean, for $5, I couldn't not grab this on the way out. So I won't necessarily display this, but I'll certainly have a good time flicking through this and keeping it on hand as a bit of a reference guide for what was coming out for 1994 here in Australia. So a great pickup to finish the hunt. Awesome. So this must be from 1991, this issue, but a full guide to the whole range. And with second Childhood Toys and Collectables in the books, the boys and I decided to pop into a couple of other local spots and have a peek before grabbing some lunch and having a beer. Dean took us to some op shops in the area and an antique market. Unfortunately, nothing there that I really needed. Look, it's always fun wandering around, having a hunt in an op shop, thrift store, charity store, whatever you want to call it, and an antique market. You never know what you're going to find. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But it was really cool to see a stack of VHS at Vinnie's, because my local op shops never seem to carry VHS tapes these days. The closest I came to pulling the trigger on something for my collection was an X-Rental Chuck Norris direct-to-TV movie. X-Rental Chuck Norris. That looks terrible. In the end, I thought, look, it's not necessarily something that I need, so I left that for somebody else, but I didn't leave the op shops empty-handed. I picked up The Abyss on DVD, which is a movie that I've been wanting to watch lately. I've got it on VHS, but for a film like this, I'd much rather grab a DVD or Blu-ray and sit in the comfort of the living room rather than watching it on the CRT TV. So we got The Abyss Special Edition on DVD. I'll give that a watch at some point over the weekend. And that was it for today's hunt. We had a great day, and to top it off, we were lucky enough to go back to the Taylor's place. Dean and Sarah were good enough to have us around for a few beers, so it's lovely to catch up with those guys. I got to hang out with Dan's wife, Monique, and just a really nice way to finish the day, and always a pleasure to get to see Dean's collection room and just hang out with those guys. You know, toy hunting with good people is what it's all about. So we had a brilliant day today. And as always, as I often finish these sorts of toy hunting videos where people like, Matt and Andrew from Keep On Collecting and the Taylors are involved, there's always a few extra goodies getting thrown around. And I was really, really quite blown away that Sarah's mum, who volunteers at a local op shop, had some wrestling cards come across her desk, and she thought I would appreciate them, which I definitely do. These wrestling cards are a little bit later on than the period of wrestling that I was super into, but hey, my collection is as good a home as any for these. So Sarah's mum, thank you very much. I really do appreciate those. And Dean was kind enough to give me some of his doubles in the original TMNT movie trading card line, which is awesome. Dean, I've got, like I mentioned to you today, mate, I've got my childhood collection of TMNT cards, both the animated series and the movie, in a Tupperware container about 2 meters away from me, and I've got a ton of doubles, but I've also got a bunch that I'm missing. So I'm really hoping that some of these fill some of the gaps in my TMNT movie trading card series. Please check what you're missing, mate, and maybe we can turn this gift into like an old-fashioned schoolyard trade. So hoping that I've got some doubles that can help you, but thank you very much. As fun as today's toy hunt was, there was unfortunately one very noticeable absentee in Matt from Keep On Collecting, who couldn't make it today. But Matt, we were missing you, we were thinking of you, and the boys managed to find a couple of pieces for Matt. So Dean found a couple of Hercules figures for Matt's collection, and Andrew found an awesome Space 1999 colouring in an activity book.
Well, he's home, he can colour in his favourite TV show.
That's awesome.
He'll love that. You'll actually love that.
So Matt, I hope you enjoyed those. We were definitely thinking of you, mate. We're looking forward to linking up with you for the next one. But on that note, I'm going to wrap it up there. A big thanks to the guys that joined us today for the hunt. A big thanks to the Taylors for having us around for a beer afterwards. Thanks, of course, to Cole at Second Childhood Toys and Collectables for welcoming us. I definitely recommend, like I mentioned previously, you go check out Second Childhood Toys and Collectables if you're in the Western Sydney area. All the details will be in the description below. Big thanks to you guys for watching. If you made it this far, you're a dead set champion. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to hear from you in the comments. As always, you can hit us up on Instagram at Crusher Collects. And until the next one, cheers.